r/ProRevenge friend's mom lied about family business, so I destroyed their empire. The text message that destroyed my life was only 7 words long: "Don't ever contact me or my family again." I stared at my phone screen in the parking lot of Henderson Auto Repair, the same shop where I'd spent countless hours over the past 3 years. The same place where Marcus and I used to joke around while changing oil and rotating tires. The same business his mother Carol had built from a single garage into a 5-location empire across the county. 24 hours ago, I thought the Hendersons were my second family. Now I was apparently a thief. "This is insane," I muttered, scrolling back through Marcus's previous messages. The accusations were crystal clear: $3,200 missing from the weekend deposits. Security footage, mysteriously, corrupted for the exact time frame. My weekend shift being the common denominator. Carol's tearful disappointment that someone she trusted like a son would steal from them. Except I hadn't stolen a damn thing. My hands shook as I dialed Marcus again. Straight to voicemail. I'd already left 6 messages, each one more desperate than the last. 3 years of friendship, gone. The family that had welcomed me to every holiday dinner, celebrated my 18th birthday with a custom cake, helped me pay for textbooks when financial aid fell short, they genuinely believed I was a criminal. The worst part? I could prove my innocence, but nobody would listen. I'd been working the books that weekend, helping Carol organize quarterly reports like I'd done dozens of times before. I knew exactly where that missing money had gone, because I'd watched her move it myself. The envelope marked Insurance Adjustment, Unit 23B, that she tucked into her personal briefcase. The hushed phone call about making sure the damage estimates align with previous claims. The way she quickly closed her laptop when I walked back into the office. At the time, I hadn't questioned it. Carol Henderson was a successful businesswoman who'd grown up poor and built something incredible through hard work. If she was moving money around, surely it was legitimate business operations that a 19-year-old college kid wouldn't understand. But now, sitting in my beat-up Honda while rain pelted the windshield, those strange moments from the past few months suddenly formed a pattern. The insurance payouts that seemed higher than the actual repair costs. The way certain customer files were kept in Carol's personal cabinet instead of the main system. The fake damage photos I'd helped organize, assuming they were just before and after documentation. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. "Mom's lawyer says if you try to contact us or show up at any of the shops, they'll file harassment charges. You're also banned from the property. I can't believe I trusted you." The betrayal hit like ice water in my veins. Not just from Marcus, but from Carol. She hadn't just falsely accused me, she'd used me as a scapegoat to cover her own crimes. All those times she'd praised my attention to detail, my discretion, my willingness to help with sensitive paperwork. She'd been grooming the perfect fall guy. I screenshot Marcus's message and saved it to a new folder on my phone. Then I opened my laptop and began creating a document titled Henderson Auto, Financial Irregularities. If Carol Henderson wanted to destroy my reputation to protect her secrets, she'd picked the wrong person to frame. I'd spent 3 years learning every aspect of her operation. I knew where the bodies were buried because I'd unknowingly helped dig the graves. Time to start excavating. The first thing I did was drive to every Henderson Auto location. Not to confront anyone, I wasn't stupid enough to violate the harassment threat, but to document everything from public property. Photos of the buildings, the signage, the customer parking lots filled with cars in various states of repair. What I saw made my stomach drop. At the Westfield location, I counted at least 12 vehicles with damage that looked wrong. A Honda Civic with a perfectly rectangular dent that was too clean, too uniform. A pickup truck with scratches that followed an almost geometric pattern. A sedan with rear-end damage that somehow left the bumper pristine while destroying the quarter panel. I'd seen enough real accident damage to know what it looked like. This wasn't it. My phone rang, startling me from my surveillance. Unknown number. "Hello. Is this Jake Morrison?" The voice was professional, clipped. "Yes. This is Detective Sarah Chen with the County Sheriff's Financial Crimes Unit. I'd like to speak with you about your employment at Henderson Auto Repair." My heart hammered against my ribs. Am I in trouble?" "That depends. Can you come to the station this afternoon? There are some questions about irregularities in the business's financial records, and your name came up as someone with access to sensitive information." Carol had called the police. She wasn't just using me as a scapegoat with her son, she was setting me up as the fall guy for everything. "I'll be there in an hour," I managed. "Bring any documentation you might have related to your work duties. Financial records, receipts, anything that might help clarify your role in the business operations." The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in the parking lot of what used to be my second home. Through the shop windows, I could see mechanics working on cars, the same routine I'd been part of for years. Did they know about the accusations? Did they think I was a thief too? I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios. Prison. A criminal record. My college dreams destroyed. All because Carol Henderson needed someone to blame for her own illegal activities. But as I pulled into my apartment complex, something shifted. The fear transformed into cold, calculated anger. If Detective Chen wanted documentation, I'd give her documentation. I spent the next 2 hours methodically going through every file on my laptop, every photo on my phone, every piece of paper in my backpack. 3 years of working closely with Henderson Auto had left me with an accidentally comprehensive record of their operations. Customer intake forms with my handwriting. Insurance claim numbers I'd helped organize. Photos of vehicles that I'd taken for documentation purposes, photos that now revealed suspicious damage patterns. Email chains where Carol had CC'd me on communications with insurance adjusters, probably forgetting that I kept everything organized in folders. Most damning of all, the spreadsheet I'd created last month to help Carol track special projects. She'd called it routine business organization. Now I realized it was a detailed record of every fraudulent claim, complete with dates, insurance companies, payout amounts, and vehicle information. I'd been the perfect employee, documenting everything with the same meticulous attention to detail that Carol had always praised. She'd taught me to keep detailed records of everything. She'd insisted on it. Now those same records were going to destroy her. I printed everything, organized it into neat folders, and headed to the police station. Detective Chen wanted to know about my role in the business operations. I was about to show her exactly what I'd learned. The county sheriff's station smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucracy. Detective Chen turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who studied me like I was a puzzle she needed to solve. Her office was cramped, filled with case files stacked in precarious towers. Mr. Morrison, thank you for coming in voluntarily. She gestured to a metal chair across from her desk. Before we begin, I want to clarify something. You're not under arrest, but you are being questioned in connection with a financial investigation. You have the right to have an attorney present. My mouth went dry. Do I need one? That's up to you. Mrs. Henderson has made some serious allegations about missing funds and irregularities in the business accounts. Your access to financial records makes you a person of interest. I set my folder of documents on her desk. Detective Chen, I think there's been a misunderstanding about who's stealing from whom. She raised an eyebrow but didn't touch the folder. Explain. For the next 30 minutes, I walked her through everything. The suspicious insurance claims, the staged vehicle damage, the payments that didn't match actual repair costs. I showed her photos, spreadsheets, email chains. Detective Chen's expression grew more serious with each piece of evidence. You're alleging that Mrs. Henderson has been running an insurance fraud operation, she said finally. I'm not alleging anything. I'm showing you what I documented while working there. I thought it was legitimate business until she accused me of theft. Detective Chen leaned back in her chair. Mr. Morrison, I have to ask, why should I believe you're not just trying to deflect blame? These allegations are quite convenient given your current situation. My stomach dropped. Even with evidence, she thought I might be lying. Because I have 3 years of documentation that I created before any accusations were made. Check the timestamps on everything. Most of these files are months old. She was quiet for a long moment, flipping through the papers. This spreadsheet you created, you're saying Mrs. Henderson asked you to track these special projects? She said it was for quarterly reporting. She needed everything organized by insurance company, claim amount, and processing date. I thought I was helping with legitimate business analysis. And these photos of vehicle damage? She asked me to document everything for the files. Said proper documentation was crucial for insurance relationships. I pulled out my phone and showed her the camera roll. I can prove when each photo was taken. Some of these vehicles had damage that was modified between the initial intake photos and the final claim submissions. Detective Chen's poker face cracked slightly. Modified how? Additional dents that appeared overnight. Scratch patterns that were too perfect. Damage that didn't match the accident reports filed with insurance companies. I swiped through the photos. This Honda Civic. The intake photo shows minor rear damage. 3 days later, the quarter panel is completely destroyed, but somehow the tail lights are still pristine. She made notes as I talked, but I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. Mr. Morrison, I need to ask you something directly. Did you take any money from Henderson Auto? No, ma'am. I never had access to cash deposits or daily receipts. I only worked on paperwork and organization. Mrs. Henderson says you were working alone during the weekend when the money went missing. I was working on quarterly reports in the office. The missing money was from weekend service receipts, which would have been in the front desk register or the safe. I didn't have access to either. Detective Chen closed the folder and studied me. I'm going to be frank with you. Mrs. Henderson came in yesterday with her attorney and a compelling story about a trusted employee who turned out to be stealing. She presented this as a straightforward embezzlement case. My heart sank. And now I have 2 very different versions of events and a lot of documentation to verify. She stood up. I need you to not discuss this investigation with anyone. Don't contact the Henderson family, don't post about it on social media, don't try to gather additional evidence on your own. Am I going to be arrested? Not today. But Mr. Morrison. She fixed me with a stern look. If you're lying to me, if this is an elaborate attempt to cover your own crimes, I will find out. Financial fraud investigations don't just look at documents, we trace money, verify claims with insurance companies, interview employees and customers. I nodded, trying to project more confidence than I felt. I understand. When you do all that investigating, you'll see I'm telling the truth. As I left the police station, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stay away from our family business or you'll regret it. This is your only warning. The number was blocked, but I knew it wasn't Marcus. His writing style was different. This felt like Carol. She was escalating. Which meant I was onto something big. I screenshot the threatening text and added it to my growing evidence file. Carol Henderson was making mistakes now, and desperation was starting to show. Good. Desperate people get sloppy. But I needed to be smarter than her. The next morning, I drove to the community college library instead of my usual campus spot. If Carol was monitoring my movements, and that text suggested she might be, I needed to stay unpredictable. The last thing I wanted was to give her ammunition for harassment charges while I was building my case. I spent 4 hours methodically cross-referencing every insurance claim number from my spreadsheet with public records. Most states required basic claim information to be accessible, and I'd learned enough about the system from working at Henderson Auto to know where to look. What I found made my blood run cold. Claim hashtag INS 4471982, Henderson Auto submitted photos showing $8,400 in damage to a 2018 Camry. The insurance payout was $7,200. But when I pulled up the accident report filed with the state, the responding officer had noted minor cosmetic damage, vehicle drivable. The photos in the police report showed completely different damage than what Henderson Auto had submitted to insurance. Claim hashtag INS 4458891, a pickup truck with supposed hail damage worth $12,000. Except the weather service records showed no hail storms in our county during the 6 months surrounding the claim date. Claim hashtag INS 4463104, the Honda Civic from my photos. Henderson Auto claimed $6,800 for collision repair, but the original accident report listed it as a parking lot fender bender with damages estimated under $500 by the responding officer. Pattern after pattern emerged. Carol wasn't just inflating legitimate claims, she was manufacturing damage, filing false reports, and in some cases submitting claims for accidents that never happened. My phone rang, startling me from the screen. My mom's contact photo smiled up at me. "Hey honey, how are classes going?" "Fine, Mom." I closed my laptop instinctively, even though she couldn't see it through the phone. "You sound tired. Are you getting enough sleep?" How was I supposed to explain this? My mom had always been proud of my job at Henderson Auto, bragging to her friends about how the successful business owner treated me like family. Just stressed about midterms. "Well, don't forget to take care of yourself. Oh, and Mrs. Patterson from down the street asked about you yesterday. She said she heard you were in some kind of trouble with the police." My stomach dropped. Small town gossip moved faster than wildfire. "It's nothing, Mom. Just a misunderstanding at work. Jake." Her voice carried that tone every parent masters, the one that says they know you're not telling the whole truth. "If something's wrong, you can talk to me. I know. I promise it's going to be okay." After I hung up, I sat staring at my reflection in the black laptop screen. This wasn't just about proving my innocence anymore. Carol's operation was massive, systematic, and probably worth millions in fraudulent payouts. She'd been running this scheme for years, and I'd been the unwitting accomplice documenting everything. How many other employees knew? How many insurance companies were being scammed? How many legitimate customers were having their premiums inflated because of her fraud? My phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. Marcus had posted a photo from last night, him and several friends at what looked like a party. His smile seemed forced, but the caption read, "Grateful for real friends who have my back." The message was clear. He was moving on, surrounding himself with people who believed his mother's version of events. 3 years of friendship, erased. I was about to close the app when I noticed something in the background of his photo. A familiar face, Tommy Rodriguez, who worked the afternoon shift at the main Henderson Auto location. He was holding a beer and laughing, but his eyes kept darting toward the camera like he was uncomfortable. Tommy had always been quiet around me, but friendly enough. He'd been working at Henderson Auto longer than I had, since before Carol expanded to multiple locations. If anyone knew the scope of what was really happening, it would be him. But reaching out to current employees violated Detective Chen's instructions about not interfering with the investigation. I couldn't contact them directly. However, she'd said nothing about gathering publicly available information. I opened a new browser window and started researching Tommy Rodriguez. Social media profiles, work history, anything that might give me insight into what other employees knew about Carol's operation. What I found was interesting. Tommy had posted several complaints about insurance companies over the past year, frustration about claim denials, comments about how the system is rigged, angry rants about adjusters questioning legitimate repairs. Either Tommy was genuinely frustrated with normal insurance procedures, or he was frustrated because fraudulent claims were getting rejected and making his job harder. Then I found the smoking gun buried in a comment thread from 3 months ago. Tommy had replied to a friend's complaint about car repair costs. "Man, you should see some of the stuff that goes on at these shops. Insurance money doesn't always go where it's supposed to." His friend had replied asking what he meant, but Tommy never responded. The thread went cold. I screenshot everything and added it to my files. Tommy Rodriguez knew something was wrong at Henderson Auto, and he'd been dropping hints about it months before I was accused of theft. The question was, how many other employees were uncomfortable with what they'd witnessed? And more importantly, would any of them be willing to talk to Detective Chen once they realized the investigation was real? Carol Henderson had built her empire on the assumption that loyal employees would never question her authority. But loyalty has limits, especially when people realize they might be accessories to crimes. I was about to find out just how solid her foundation really was. That evening, I made a decision that would either vindicate me or destroy what was left of my life. I drove to Denny's on the far side of town, the 24-hour diner where Henderson Auto employees sometimes grabbed late dinner after closing. If I was going to accidentally run into Tommy Rodriguez, it had to look completely natural. I'd been nursing a cup of coffee and picking at pie for 2 hours when he finally walked in, still wearing his work coveralls. He looked exhausted, the kind of bone-deep tired that comes from carrying secrets you can't share. Tommy spotted me immediately. For a moment, I thought he might leave, but instead he hesitated, then walked over to my booth. "Jake." His voice was carefully neutral. "Heard you're not working for us anymore." That's one way to put it. I gestured to the empty seat across from me. "Want to sit?" "I'm buying." He glanced around the nearly empty diner, then slid into the booth. 5 minutes. "I can't be seen talking to you for long." "Why? What are you afraid of?" Tommy's laugh was bitter. "Same thing you should be afraid of. Carol Henderson doesn't forgive people who cross her." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Jake. You worked the books. You organized her files. You think you're the first person to notice things don't add up." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Remember Danny Vasquez? Worked the East Side location about 2 years ago." I vaguely remembered the name. "He quit, right? He got fired. Same story as you, missing money, accusations of theft. Except Danny had been asking too many questions about why we were ordering parts that never seemed to get installed on customer vehicles." My stomach clenched. What happened to him? Last I heard, he was working at a Jiffy Lube in the next county. Couldn't get hired anywhere decent because word got around that he was a thief. Tommy's fingers drummed nervously on the table. Funny thing is, right after Danny left, those mysterious part orders stopped too. The pattern was becoming clear. Carol had been running this operation for years, systematically removing anyone who got too close to the truth. How many others? That I know about. 3, maybe 4 employees over the past 5 years. All the same story, good workers who paid attention to details, until suddenly they weren't. "Why haven't you said anything?" Tommy's expression hardened. "Said anything to who?" Carol owns half this town. She sponsors the Little League teams, donates to the fire department, sits on the Chamber of Commerce. You think anyone's going to believe mechanics over Henderson Auto's sterling reputation? What about the insurance companies? They investigate claims all the time. But Carol's smart, she keeps the fraud just below their radar. Not big enough to trigger automatic reviews, not frequent enough from any single location to establish patterns. He checked his phone. I need to go. Tommy, wait. I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd taken of the suspiciously damaged vehicles. Is this what Danny was talking about? The mysterious parts. He stared at the screen, his face going pale. Where did you take these? Public parking, from the street. But look at the damage patterns. That's not from real accidents. Tommy was quiet for a long moment. When he looked up, there was something like relief in his eyes. You're building a case, aren't you? That's why the cops came by the shop today asking questions. The police were at Henderson Auto. Detective Chen and some guy in a suit. They wanted to see financial records, talk to employees who'd worked with you. He smiled grimly. Carol looked like she was going to throw up. This was it. The investigation was moving forward, and Carol was starting to panic. What did they ask you? Standard stuff. How long I'd worked there, what my interactions with you were like, whether I'd noticed any irregularities in business operations. Tommy stood up. I told them the truth, that you were one of the most honest people I'd ever worked with. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Carol pulled me aside after they left. Made it very clear that loyal employees would be rewarded, and disloyal ones would regret their choices. He headed toward the door, then turned back. Jake. Be careful. Carol's not just worried about insurance fraud anymore. If this investigation expands, if they start looking at tax records and business licenses, she could be looking at federal charges. People do desperate things when they're cornered. As Tommy disappeared into the parking lot, I realized the stakes had just escalated beyond anything I'd imagined. Carol Henderson wasn't just a small-town business owner running insurance scams. She was a criminal who'd been systematically destroying lives to protect her empire. And now she knew the walls were closing in. I barely slept that night, Tommy's warnings echoing in my head. When my phone rang at 6:47 a.m., I was already awake, staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out Carol's next move. Jake Morrison. The voice was unfamiliar, professional. Speaking. This is Agent Patricia Reeves, FBI Financial Crimes Division. I need to meet with you today regarding your cooperation with local law enforcement. My blood turned to ice water. FBI. Detective Chen forwarded your documentation to our office. Insurance fraud across state lines becomes a federal matter, Mr. Morrison. Can you be at the federal building downtown by 10 a.m.? After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed trying to process what was happening. Carol's operation was apparently big enough to attract federal attention. This wasn't just about missing petty cash anymore, this was organized crime. I was getting dressed when my apartment building's fire alarm started shrieking. The hallway filled with confused residents in bathrobes and pajamas, everyone shuffling toward the exits while the alarm pierced our eardrums. Mrs. Chen from 3B was complaining loudly about false alarms, but as we reached the parking lot, I could see smoke. Real smoke, coming from the maintenance room near my unit. Everyone stay back, shouted the building manager, Mr. Kovac, as fire trucks screamed into the complex. Electrical fire in the utility room. Could spread fast. I watched firefighters rush past my apartment door with hoses and equipment, my stomach sinking as I realized which units were most at risk. Mine was directly above the maintenance room. My laptop. All my backup files. The printed documents I'd organized for Detective Chen were sitting on my kitchen table. Excuse me, I called to one of the firefighters. I need to get some important documents from my apartment. Nobody goes back in until we clear the building, son. Sorry. 3 hours later, they let us return. The maintenance room was destroyed, and my apartment reeked of smoke, but the actual fire damage was minimal. Water damage, however, was a different story. The kitchen was soaked, my table was warped, and the neat stacks of evidence I prepared were reduced to soggy, illegible pulp. I grabbed my laptop with shaking hands, praying it had survived. The screen flickered to life, but when I tried to access my files, half of them were corrupted. 3 years of meticulous documentation, reduced to digital garbage. My backup drive was in the kitchen drawer. Water had seeped through the plastic case, and the device was completely dead. Standing in my ruined apartment, surrounded by the smell of smoke and wet drywall, a terrible certainty settled in my chest. This wasn't an electrical fire. This was Carol Henderson sending a message. But she'd miscalculated. I'd already given copies of everything to Detective Chen, and now the FBI was involved. Destroying my personal copies wouldn't stop the investigation, it would just prove how desperate she'd become. My phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. Accidents happen when people don't know when to quit. Hope nobody got hurt. I screenshot the message and forwarded it directly to Detective Chen with a note, convenient timing on this electrical fire. Thought you should know. Her response came back within minutes. Are you safe? Do not return to your apartment alone. Meet Agent Reeves as scheduled. Federal protection may be necessary. Federal protection. The phrase hit me like a physical blow. Carol Henderson had escalated from false accusations to arson and threats. She wasn't just trying to discredit me anymore, she was trying to silence me permanently. As I packed a bag with whatever wasn't water damaged, I realized I'd crossed a point of no return. This wasn't about clearing my name anymore. This was about survival. And somewhere across town, Carol Henderson was probably congratulating herself on eliminating the evidence, completely unaware that she'd just committed a federal crime in front of multiple witnesses. Her empire was about to become a crime scene. The FBI field office looked exactly like every government building I'd ever seen, beige walls, fluorescent lighting, and the kind of institutional carpet that had probably been installed sometime in the 1980s. Agent Reeves turned out to be a compact woman with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Morrison, before we begin, I need to ask, do you feel safe in your current living situation? I thought about the soggy remains of my apartment and the anonymous text threats. Not particularly. We can arrange temporary housing if necessary. What happened at your apartment building this morning raises some concerns. She opened a thick folder. Detective Chin briefed me on your allegations against Henderson Auto. I've spent the past 18 hours verifying some of your documentation with insurance companies. My stomach clenched. And? You're either the most elaborate fraud conspirator I've encountered in 15 years, or Carol Henderson has been running one of the most sophisticated insurance scams in the region. She pulled out a printed spreadsheet. 17 insurance companies, 43 fraudulent or inflated claims over the past 3 years, estimated total fraud approaching $2.8 million. The number hit me like a physical blow. Almost $3 million. That's just what we can verify from your documentation. If this operation goes back further, we're looking at significantly more. Agent Reeves leaned forward. Mr. Morrison, I need to understand your role in this scheme. Were you a willing participant who's now trying to negotiate immunity, or are you genuinely a victim who stumbled into evidence? I swear I had no idea what I was really documenting. Carol told me it was routine business organization. The level of detail in your record suggests either criminal participation or exceptional naivety. Her tone wasn't accusatory, just matter of fact. Help me understand which one. For the next hour, I walked through every interaction I could remember with Carol, every strange request, every moment that seemed off but that I'd rationalized away. Agent Reeves took notes, occasionally asking for clarification or additional details. The spreadsheet you created tracking special projects, she said finally. Did Mrs. Henderson ever explain what made them special? She said they were complex claims that required extra attention for customer satisfaction. Higher-end repairs, luxury vehicles, complicated insurance relationships. I felt sick remembering how proud I'd been of my organizational skills. I thought I was helping provide better customer service. You were helping her track federal crimes. Agent Reeves closed her notepad. Mr. Morrison, I'm going to be direct. We have enough evidence to arrest Carol Henderson today. The question is whether we move fast to prevent evidence destruction, or take time to build a more comprehensive case. What's the difference? Moving fast means we catch her off guard, but we might miss other participants or the full scope of the operation. Taking time means we could lose evidence if she realizes how much trouble she's in. Agent Reeves studied me carefully. Given this morning's fire and the threatening messages, I'm inclined toward immediate action. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Marcus's name appeared on the screen, the first time he tried to contact me since sending that devastating text message. It's him, I told Agent Reeves. My former friend, Carol's son. Answer it. Put it on speaker. I accepted the call with shaking hands. Hello. Jake. Marcus's voice was strained, panicked. Jesus Christ, what did you do? There are federal agents at every one of our shops. They're seizing computers, taking files, interviewing employees. Mom's lawyer is freaking out. Agent Reeves motioned for me to keep talking. I didn't do anything except tell the truth, I said carefully. The truth about what? What the hell is going on? Maybe you should ask your mother about the special projects I helped organize. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Jake, what special projects? And in that moment, hearing the confusion and growing dread in my former best friend's voice, I realized Carol Henderson's empire was built on lies that even her own son didn't know. The foundation was about to crumble, and everyone was going down with it. Marcus, where are you right now? I asked, watching Agent Reeves scribble notes. At home with Mom. She's crying, Jake. I've never seen her like this. She keeps saying someone set her up, that the evidence was planted. His voice cracked. She's talking about losing everything. The houses, the cars, the business. She said we might have to declare bankruptcy just to pay for lawyers. Agent Reeves held up a hand, then wrote something on a piece of paper and showed it to me. Keep him talking. Ask about records. Marcus, did your mom ever talk to you about insurance claims? About how she handled the paperwork side of things? No, why would she? I just worked on cars, same as you. The business stuff was always her department. I could hear muffled voices in the background. Wait, she's saying something. What? No, Mom, I'm not. The line went dead. Agent Reeves immediately picked up her desk phone. This is Reeves. I need units at the Henderson residence immediately. Suspects may be attempting to flee. She looked at me while speaking to whoever was on the other end. White female, late 40s, Carol Henderson. Son Marcus Henderson, early 20s. Address is. She rattled off details from her file. Are they going to arrest Marcus too? The thought made me sick despite everything that had happened. That depends on what we find and what he knew. Being related to a criminal doesn't make you guilty, but participating in criminal activity does. Agent Reeves hung up the phone. Mr. Morrison, I need you to think carefully. In all your time working there, did Marcus ever handle insurance paperwork? Did he ever interact with adjusters or work on the financial side? I tried to remember. No, he always said he hated paperwork. He preferred working with his hands, actually fixing things. Carol used to joke that he got his mechanical skills from his dad but thankfully didn't inherit his head for business. What about other family members? Carol's husband. He died in a car accident when Marcus was 12. It was just the two of them. A horrible thought occurred to me. Agent Reeves, Marcus really might not know anything about this. If Carol kept the fraud separate from the actual repair work. It's possible. We've seen family operations where only one member handles the illegal activities. Her phone rang, and she answered quickly. Reeves. What do you mean gone? How long ago? Shit. She hung up and turned to me with a grim expression. The Henderson house is empty. Neighbors say they saw Carol loading suitcases into her car about an hour ago. Marcus was with her. My heart sank. She's running. Or she's taking her son somewhere safe while she figures out her next move. Agent Reeves stood up. Either way, we've got multiple federal warrants being issued and a BOLO alert going out. She won't get far with this much attention. But even as she said it, I could see the concern in her eyes. Carol had been planning contingencies for years, systematically removing threats and covering her tracks. She'd had time to prepare escape routes, hide assets, maybe even establish false identities. There's something else, I said suddenly. Carol always talked about her sister in Colorado. Said she had a cabin in the mountains that was perfect for getting away from everything. She used to say it was so remote that you could disappear for weeks without anyone finding you. Agent Reeves grabbed her phone again. I need everything we have on Carol Henderson's family members in Colorado. Sister, cabin, any property records. She covered the phone and looked at me. What else do you remember about this cabin? Near some ski town, I think. She said her sister bought it as an investment property but hardly ever used it. I racked my brain for more details. Marcus mentioned it once too, said they'd gone there for a weekend when he was in high school. He complained about no cell phone service and having to drive 20 minutes just to get groceries. That narrows it down. Agent Reeves was already pulling up maps on her computer. Colorado has dozens of remote cabin areas, but not many that are exactly 20 minutes from a grocery store. As federal agents across multiple states began coordinating a manhunt, I sat in that beige government office realizing that Carol Henderson had just made the worst possible decision. Running from federal charges didn't just make her look guilty, it made her a fugitive. And fugitives, I was learning, had a way of making mistakes that brought down everyone around them. Including Marcus, who might be an innocent victim or an accomplice, but was now officially on the run from the FBI. My phone rang at 3 a.m., jarring me awake in the generic hotel room the FBI had arranged. I'd been dreaming about Marcus and me working on his first car, a beat-up Mustang we'd spent an entire summer restoring. In the dream, we were still friends. Jake. The voice was barely a whisper, crackling through what sounded like a terrible connection. Marcus. I sat up, instantly alert. Where are you? The FBI is looking for. Listen to me carefully. I can't talk long. His voice was strained, desperate. Mom's lost it, Jake. She's been lying about everything. The cabin, the sister in Colorado, none of it's real. What do you mean? There is no sister. There is no cabin. She made it all up to buy time while we drove to some storage unit in Nevada. I could hear wind in the background, like he was outside. Jake, there are dozens of safety deposit box keys. Bank account numbers. Fake IDs with our pictures. My blood ran cold. Marcus, you need to call the FBI. Agent Reeves gave me a number. She's got a gun, Jake. The words came out in a rush. She bought it at some sketchy place in Utah. Said she's not going to prison, that she'd rather die than lose everything she built. Where are you right now? Some motel outside Las Vegas. She thinks I'm in the bathroom, but I climbed out the window. I found her burner phone. She's been making calls to someone named Vincent about liquidating assets and cleaning up loose ends. His voice dropped even lower. Jake, I think she's planning to come back for you. The hotel room suddenly felt like a trap. Come back for me. She keeps saying you're the only witness who can connect all the pieces. That if you disappear, the FBI case falls apart because all they have is circumstantial evidence. Marcus's breathing was ragged. She's not thinking straight anymore. This morning she burned a whole box of papers and was laughing about how smart she was. But then an hour later she was crying and saying Dad would be ashamed of what she became. Through the phone, I heard a door slam and Carol's voice in the distance. Marcus. Where are you? I have to go, he whispered. But Jake. Don't trust anyone. Mom said she has people back home who owe her favors. People who could get close to you. The line went dead. I immediately called Agent Reeves, my hands shaking as I dialed. She answered on the first ring. Morrison. What's wrong? I repeated everything Marcus had told me, including Carol's apparent plan to eliminate me as a witness. Agent Reeves was quiet for a long moment. This Vincent person, did Marcus give you any other details? No, but he mentioned liquidating assets. That sounds financial, right? Could be money laundering, could be converting assets to cash for flight. We'll run the name through our databases. I heard typing in the background. Mr. Morrison, I'm moving you to a secure location immediately. If Mrs. Henderson is as unstable as her son suggests, and if she really believes killing you would end the investigation, we can't take any chances. But would it? End the investigation? Agent Reeves's laugh was grim. Absolutely not. We've already corroborated your evidence with insurance companies and other witnesses. At this point, you're a valuable witness, but you're not the entire case. Her tone shifted, becoming more urgent. However, Mrs. Henderson may not realize that. Desperate people don't always think logically. 20 minutes later, I was being moved to a different hotel across town, this time with federal protection stationed outside my door. As I packed the few belongings I'd salvaged from my apartment, I realized Carol's desperate flight had transformed this from a white-collar fraud case into something much more dangerous. She'd gone from respected businesswoman to armed fugitive in less than 48 hours, and according to Marcus, she was planning to eliminate witnesses. But she'd made a critical error. She'd turned her own son against her. Marcus was no longer just a potential witness, he was actively helping the FBI track her movements. Carol Henderson's empire wasn't just crumbling anymore. It was collapsing into violence, and she was about to discover that running from the federal government only made them more determined to bring you down. My new hotel room had thick curtains that I kept drawn shut, but I still found myself checking the parking lot every few minutes. Agent Reeves had stationed 2 federal marshals in the hallway, but paranoia was eating at me like acid. Every car door that slammed, every footstep in the corridor, every unexpected sound sent my heart racing. It had been 6 hours since Marcus's call, and the silence was worse than the chaos. I was scrolling through news websites, looking for any coverage of the manhunt, when my laptop chimed with an email notification. The sender's address made my stomach drop, hendersonauto_admin@gmail.com. Carol was reaching out directly. The subject line read, Misunderstandings and Opportunities for Resolution. My first instinct was to immediately forward it to Agent Reeves, but curiosity won. I opened the email and felt my blood turn to ice. Jake, I know you think you understand what's happening, but you've been manipulated by people who want to destroy everything I've built. The FBI is using you to advance their careers, not seek justice. I have proof that Detective Chin falsified evidence and that Agent Reeves has been targeting legitimate businesses to inflate her conviction statistics. Meet me tomorrow at the old Henderson Auto location on Mill Street, the one that's been closed for renovations. Come alone at 3 p.m., and I'll show you documentation that will change everything you believe about this situation. If you don't come, innocent people are going to prison while the real criminals in law enforcement get promotions. This is your chance to learn the truth. Carol. The email was clearly unhinged, but something about it bothered me beyond the obvious manipulation tactics. Carol was many things, but she wasn't stupid. She had to know that any electronic communication could be traced, that sending me threats or meeting requests would only make her situation worse. Unless she was planning something that made consequences irrelevant. I immediately forwarded the email to Agent Reeves and called her number. She's trying to lure you into a trap, Agent Reeves said without preamble. Classic desperate fugitive behavior, blame law enforcement, claim to have exonerating evidence, arrange a meeting in an isolated location. But what if she really does have something? What if there are details about the fraud that I missed? Mr. Morrison, Carol Henderson has burned through every other option. Her bank accounts are frozen, her assets are being seized, and her son is cooperating with our investigation. A face-to-face meeting with you is her last chance to either eliminate a witness or negotiate some kind of deal. What about Marcus? Has he contacted you directly? Agent Reeves paused. We're working on establishing secure communication. But Jake, I need you to understand something. Mrs. Henderson sent that email from a computer at a public library in Phoenix. She's no longer in Nevada, and she's moving fast. Phoenix. That was only a 6-hour drive from my current location. Carol was getting closer, and her timeline was accelerating. There's something else, Agent Reeves continued. We've identified Vincent. Vincent Torino, he's a private investigator with a suspended license and a history of working for clients who need off-the-book services. He specializes in asset recovery and witness intimidation. The implications hit me immediately. Carol hadn't just hired some casual criminal, she'd brought in a professional. Someone who knew how to find people, how to apply pressure, how to make problems disappear. Are you moving me again? We're considering it. But Jake, here's the reality, if Henderson and this Vincent character are determined enough, changing hotels isn't going to stop them. We need to end this quickly. Agent Reeves's tone shifted to something more urgent. I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Would you be willing to help us set up a controlled meeting? You mean like bait? I mean like ending this before innocent people get hurt. Mrs. Henderson is spiraling, and desperate people do unpredictable things. If we can draw her into a situation where we control the variables. I stared at the closed curtains, thinking about Marcus climbing out of a motel bathroom window to warn me, about Tommy Rodriguez risking his job to tell me the truth, about all the other employees who might be caught in the crossfire if Carol's desperation continued escalating. What would that look like? You respond to her email. Agree to meet, but suggest a different location, somewhere we can ensure your safety while documenting any threats or admissions she makes. Agent Reeves paused. It's not without risk, Jake. But the alternative is letting her control the timeline until she finds an opportunity that we can't protect you from. As I weighed the options, my phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. Your new hotel has excellent security cameras. Wave hello. Someone was watching me right now. The game had just changed again. I dropped my phone like it was on fire, then immediately scrambled to grab it again to show Agent Reeves the text. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely operate the screen. They're here, I whispered into the phone. Someone just texted me about the hotel's security cameras. Stay away from the windows. I'm sending backup units now. Agent Reeves's voice was crisp, professional. How many exits does your room have? Just the main door. Second floor, no balcony. I pressed myself against the wall beside the window, trying to see the parking lot without being visible myself. There's a car I don't recognize, dark sedan, tinted windows. The marshals in the hallway should have. Agent Reeves stopped mid-sentence. Jake, are you still there? Yeah, why? I just lost radio contact with the protective detail. My blood turned to ice. 2 federal marshals don't just go silent. I crept to my door and pressed my ear against it, listening for any sound in the hallway. Nothing. The corridor that had been filled with the quiet murmur of official presence was now dead silent. Agent Reeves, I think I need to get out of here. Negative. Stay put. Local SWAT is 3 minutes out. But I could hear the tension in her voice. 3 minutes might as well be 3 hours if Vincent Torino was already in the building. A soft knock at my door made my heart stop. Room service, called a voice I didn't recognize. I hadn't ordered room service. It was 4 a.m. Mr. Morrison. The voice was closer now, speaking through the door. I have a message from your friend Marcus. He asked me to check on you. The professional calm in the stranger's voice was somehow more terrifying than any threat would have been. This was Vincent, it had to be. And he was trying to use Marcus's name to get me to open the door. Jake, do not engage with whoever that is, Agent Reeves commanded through the phone. SWAT is 90 seconds out. The door handle turned slowly. I watched in horror as it rotated, then stopped. The electronic lock was still engaged, but for how long? Vincent clearly had experience getting into places he wasn't supposed to be. I backed toward the bathroom, looking for anything that could serve as a weapon or escape route. The bathroom had a small window that opened onto a narrow alley between buildings. Second floor was a dangerous drop, but not impossible. Mr. Morrison, I know you're in there. Mrs. Henderson asked me to deliver something important, evidence that will clear your name completely. Vincent's voice remained calm, conversational. She's realized she made a mistake accusing you, and she wants to make it right. Through the phone, I could hear Agent Reeves coordinating with the SWAT team. 30 seconds, Jake. Whatever you do, don't open that door. A metallic scraping sound came from the lock mechanism. Vincent was picking it, or using some kind of electronic device. The man was a professional, and hotel locks weren't designed to keep out someone with his skills. I climbed into the bathroom window, forcing my body through the narrow frame. The drop to the alley looked even more dangerous from this height, but staying meant facing whatever Vincent had planned. Mr. Morrison. Vincent's voice was now inside my room. There's no need for dramatics. I just want to talk. I heard footsteps moving through the room, checking the closet, approaching the bathroom. In seconds, he'd realize I'd gone through the window. Hanging from the window frame by my fingertips, I could see SWAT vehicles racing into the hotel parking lot. But they were going to the main entrance, and Vincent would probably escape through whatever route he'd used to get past the marshals. I let go and dropped into the alley, my ankles screaming as I hit the pavement. Above me, Vincent's face appeared in the bathroom window, no longer calm and professional. For just a moment, I saw real frustration, maybe even anger. This isn't over, Morrison, he called down. Mrs. Henderson doesn't give up easy. Then he was gone, disappearing back into the hotel room just as SWAT teams began flooding the building. Carol Henderson had found me once. She'd find me again. And next time, she might not bother sending Vincent to talk. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the back of an FBI van while paramedics checked my twisted ankle and Agent Reeves debriefed the SWAT team. The two marshals who'd been protecting me were alive but unconscious. Vincent had used some kind of tranquilizer device on them before picking my lock. Professional-grade equipment, Agent Reeves said grimly, holding up a small device that looked like a medical injector. This isn't street-level criminal activity anymore. Mrs. Henderson has hired serious help. My phone rang. Marcus's number appeared on the screen, and Agent Reeves immediately signaled for me to answer while she activated recording equipment. Jake, thank God you're okay. Marcus's voice was shaking. I saw the news about the hotel. Mom's completely lost it. She's talking about permanent solutions and saying you forced her into a corner. Where are you now? Hiding in a truck stop bathroom outside Flagstaff. Mom thinks I'm getting us food, but I had to warn you. His voice dropped to an urgent whisper. She's got detailed maps of everywhere you've been staying. Photos of the hotels, floor plans, shift schedules for security. Jake, she's been planning this for days. Agent Reeves scribbled a note and held it up. How did she get that information? Marcus, how does your mom have intel on federal safe houses? That Vincent guy isn't just some private investigator. He's got contacts everywhere, police departments, hotel management companies, maybe even inside federal agencies. Marcus paused, and I could hear truckers talking in the background. Mom keeps bragging about how much money can buy you anything, even information that's supposed to be classified. The implications were staggering. If Carol had sources inside law enforcement, nowhere was truly safe. Every move the FBI made could potentially be compromised. There's more, Marcus continued. She's not working alone anymore. Vincent brought in two other guys, ex-military types who don't talk much but look like they could handle serious problems. Mom's turned this into some kind of war. Agent Reeves held up another note, ask about their destination. Marcus, where is she planning to go next? That's the thing, she's not running anymore. She keeps saying she's going to resolve the situation locally, and that sometimes you have to take risks to protect what matters. His voice cracked. Jake, I think she's planning to come after everyone involved in the investigation. Not just you. My stomach dropped. What do you mean everyone? She's got a list. Your name, Agent Reeves, Detective Chen, even some of the insurance adjusters who've been cooperating with the FBI. She's convinced that if enough witnesses disappear or become unreliable, the whole case falls apart. Agent Reeves grabbed the phone from me. Marcus, this is Agent Reeves. I need you to listen very carefully. Your mother is planning multiple federal crimes, and you need to get away from her immediately. I can't just abandon her. She's still my mom, and she's not thinking clearly. She's planning to murder federal agents. This has moved beyond family loyalty into survival. Agent Reeves's voice was hard but not unkind. If you stay with her, you become an accessory to whatever happens next. Through the phone, we heard a truck door slam and Carol's voice in the distance, Marcus. What's taking so long? I have to go, Marcus whispered. But Agent Reeves? She's got enough money hidden away to keep this going for months. And Vincent told her that eliminating witnesses is cheaper than fighting federal charges. The line went dead, leaving us sitting in the FBI van with the terrifying realization that Carol Henderson had transformed from desperate fugitive into something much more dangerous, a well-funded terrorist with professional help and nothing left to lose. 2 hours after Marcus's warning call, Agent Reeves received confirmation that Carol Henderson had done the unthinkable. She'd hired more than just Vincent Torino. Financial records showed wire transfers totaling $400,000 to an offshore account linked to a mercenary group that specialized in corporate problem resolution. I was sitting in a secure FBI conference room when Agent Reeves delivered the news, her face grim as she spread surveillance photos across the table. These are the 3 men who arrived in Phoenix yesterday. Former special forces, dishonorably discharged, with a track record of working for clients who need serious problems to disappear permanently. The photos showed hard-faced men who looked like they could walk through a wall if necessary. This wasn't desperation anymore, this was Carol systematically assembling a small army. How is she funding this? I asked, staring at the images. The FBI froze her accounts. She's been siphoning money for years, probably preparing for exactly this scenario. Offshore accounts, cryptocurrency, cash hidden in safety deposit boxes under false names. Agent Reeves pulled up financial documents on her laptop. We've identified at least 12 separate accounts, but she likely has more. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, check the news. Channel 7. Your friend Detective Chen had an interesting evening. With shaking hands, I turned on the conference room television and found the local news. A reporter stood outside Sarah Chen's house, emergency vehicles flashing behind her. Detective Chen was hospitalized this evening after her brake lines were severed, causing her vehicle to crash into a guardrail on Highway 89. Police are calling it an attempted murder, and sources confirm it's connected to an ongoing federal investigation into insurance fraud. The remote fell from my hands. Carol wasn't just threatening anymore, she was actively trying to kill people involved in the case. Chen's alive, Agent Reeves said quickly, seeing my expression. Serious injuries, but she'll recover. More importantly, this attack proves Mrs. Henderson is escalating exactly as we feared. Another text arrived, one down. How many witnesses does the FBI really need? Agent Reeves immediately began making calls, arranging protection for every person connected to the investigation. But as I listened to her coordinating with multiple agencies, a horrible realization crept over me. Carol wasn't trying to eliminate witnesses to escape justice, she was trying to terrorize the entire federal law enforcement system. She wanted to prove that even the FBI couldn't protect people who crossed her. This was about power, control, and sending a message that would reach far beyond our small-town insurance fraud case. We're pulling everyone into protective custody, Agent Reeves announced after ending her calls. Insurance adjusters, Henderson Auto employees who've cooperated with us, even your mother is getting federal protection. My mother? My blood ran cold. I deliberately avoided contacting my family, thinking I was keeping them safe by staying away. Mrs. Henderson has been thorough in researching everyone in your life. Phone records, social media connections, employment history. If you matter to this case, she's identified every person who matters to you. The scope of Carol's operation was breathtaking and terrifying. She transformed a localized criminal enterprise into something resembling domestic terrorism, complete with professional killers and systematic targeting of law enforcement. My phone rang again. This time it was Marcus calling from what sounded like a moving vehicle. Jake, you need to listen carefully. Mom just told Vincent to accelerate the timeline. They're not waiting anymore, they're hitting multiple targets simultaneously. His voice was barely audible over road noise. She's got a map with everyone's locations marked. Your mom's house, Agent Reeves' office, the courthouse where the federal prosecutors work. Marcus, where are you? Locked in the back of their van. Mom finally realized I was feeding information to you guys. His voice cracked with exhaustion and fear. Jake, she's not my mother anymore. She's become something else entirely. The call ended abruptly, but the message was clear. Carol Henderson's war against the federal government was about to become a coordinated assault on everyone I cared about. And somewhere in the Arizona desert, she had enough money and firepower to make it happen. The next 12 hours became a blur of federal safe houses, encrypted communications, and the growing realization that Carol Henderson had turned our small-town insurance fraud into something resembling a military operation. Agent Reeves moved me to a secure federal facility outside the city, the kind of building that didn't appear on any public maps and had armed guards who checked credentials 3 times before letting anyone through the gates. But even surrounded by concrete walls and federal agents, I couldn't shake the feeling that Carol was somehow still watching, still planning. At 6 a.m., my worst fears were confirmed. She hit the courthouse, Agent Reeves announced, bursting into the conference room where I'd been trying to sleep. Explosive device in the parking garage. No casualties, but the entire building is evacuated and the federal prosecutor's offices are destroyed. My laptop screen showed news footage of smoke pouring from the downtown courthouse. The same building where I'd given my initial deposition, where federal prosecutors had been preparing charges that would have put Carol away for decades. The evidence. Backed up in multiple locations, but she's made her point. Carol Henderson can strike federal facilities. Agent Reeves' phone was ringing constantly. We've got every law enforcement agency in 3 states mobilized, but she's staying ahead of us. A new email appeared in my inbox, sender unknown, but the message unmistakably Carol's. The courthouse was just a demonstration. I've spent 15 years building relationships with people who can access anything, go anywhere, eliminate any problem. Your federal friends are playing checkers while I'm playing chess. Final offer, call off the investigation, destroy the evidence, and everyone lives. You have 24 hours. She'd attached a series of photos that made my blood freeze. My mother's house from multiple angles, Agent Reeves getting coffee that morning, Detective Chen's hospital room window. Carol wasn't just making threats, she was proving she could reach anyone, anywhere. She's got surveillance on all of us, I said, showing Agent Reeves the email. This isn't random violence anymore. It's psychological warfare. Agent Reeves studied the photos with the expression of someone who'd underestimated their opponent. 24 hours gives us a timeline, but it also means she's confident about whatever she's planning. My phone rang. Marcus's number, but when I answered, Carol's voice came through the speaker. Hello, Jake. I think it's time we had a proper conversation. Agent Reeves immediately activated recording equipment and signaled for me to keep her talking. Carol, this has gone too far. People are going to get hurt. People are already hurt. Detective Chen learned that consequences are real. The courthouse learned that federal buildings aren't untouchable. Her voice was calm, almost conversational, but I could hear the underlying hysteria. I built an empire from nothing, Jake. I provided jobs, supported this community, donated to charities. And how was I repaid? Betrayal from someone I treated like family. I never betrayed you. I just told the truth. Your truth destroyed everything I worked for. My reputation, my business, my relationship with my son. Marcus barely speaks to me now because federal agents convinced him his mother is a monster. The calm facade cracked slightly. So now I'm going to show everyone what a real monster looks like. Where's Marcus? Is he safe? He's learning what loyalty means. What family means. What happens when you choose strangers over the people who raised you. The implied threat was clear. Carol wasn't just targeting law enforcement anymore, she was punishing her own son for cooperating with the investigation. What do you want? I want Agent Reeves to hold a press conference announcing that the charges against Henderson Auto were based on fabricated evidence. I want public apologies from everyone involved. I want my reputation restored and my business returned to me. Agent Reeves was shaking her head frantically, but Carol continued. You have until tomorrow at noon. After that, I stopped asking nicely. The standoff ended in the most unexpected way possible. Marcus saved everyone. At 11:47 a.m., 13 minutes before Carol's deadline, my phone rang with a call that changed everything. Jake, it's Marcus. I need you to conference in Agent Reeves right now. I activated the 3-way call with shaking hands, watching Agent Reeves lean forward as Marcus's voice filled the secure conference room. I've been pretending to go along with Mom's plan, but I've been documenting everything. I have recordings of her planning the courthouse bombing, photos of the weapons Vincent's team brought, and most importantly, I have the locations of all her hidden accounts. Marcus, where are you? Agent Reeves asked. Sitting in the back office of Henderson Auto's main location. Mom thinks I'm preparing explosives for the final phase of her plan, but I've been feeding everything to the FBI through Detective Chen's partner. His voice was steady but exhausted. She's lost touch with reality completely. She's convinced that if she can make this case expensive enough, traumatic enough, the federal government will just walk away. My heart pounded. What's the final phase? She's planning to take out the federal building downtown at exactly noon, then disappear using identities Vincent arranged. She thinks the destruction will be so massive that no one will want to pursue the case further. Agent Reeves was already coordinating with SWAT teams, but I could see the concern in her eyes. 11 minutes wasn't much time to stop a federal building bombing. Marcus, can you delay her somehow? I already did. The explosives I was supposed to prepare. I replaced them with road flares and modeling clay. She's about to drive to the federal building with fake bombs. There was grim satisfaction in his voice. Mom taught me to pay attention to details. She just never thought I'd use those skills against her. What about Vincent and his team? That's the beautiful part. Vincent's been skimming money from Mom's payments. I found records showing he's stolen over $100,000 from her accounts. When she discovers that during the arrest, she'll realize that even her hired killers were betraying her. Agent Reeves was coordinating multiple teams through her headset, but she paused to look at Marcus's contact photo on my phone. Son, you realize you probably just saved dozens of lives. I realized something these past few days, Marcus said quietly. My mother built her empire on lies, and she was willing to destroy innocent people to protect those lies. That's not strength, that's cowardice. Jake had the courage to tell the truth even when it cost him everything. I should have stood by my friend instead of believing a criminal. Through the conference room windows, I could see federal agents mobilizing across the city. Carol's reign of terror was about to end, brought down not by superior firepower or investigative techniques, but by the son she tried to turn into an accomplice. At 12:03 p.m., Carol Henderson was arrested in a federal building parking lot, sitting in a van filled with fake explosives and demanding to know why nothing had detonated. Vincent and his team were taken into custody at their hotel, surrounded by evidence of their conspiracy and the financial records proving Vincent's embezzlement. Marcus walked out of Henderson Auto in handcuffs, but Agent Reeves had already arranged for immunity in exchange for his cooperation. The friend who texted me that devastating message was now the star witness who would ensure his mother faced justice. 6 months later, Carol Henderson was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison for insurance fraud, terrorism, attempted murder, and conspiracy. Vincent received 15 years. The mercenaries each got 10. Henderson Auto was sold to pay restitution to insurance companies. Marcus used his share of the legitimate assets to start a small, honest repair shop. He asked me to be his business partner. I said yes. Some empires deserve to fall.